Hello, everyone. I'm Jean-Claude at BeyondMystic 3. Welcome to the show. Tonight's episode, of course, is A Break in the Cloud with Penny Kelly. You can find her work on her YouTube channel here at Penny Kelly. You can also find her on Patreon here at Penny Kelly. And finally, at consciousnessonfire.com. And don't forget to subscribe to that newsletter, just in case. You never know, weird things happen. Penny, welcome back to the show.
It's good to be here. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're still here. So,
yeah, it's been one of those weird couple of days, Penny. I have to admit.
Yeah. Oh my. Yeah, I was thinking, your mention of Mercury, when I saw yesterday that you had been dumped again, I was like, they missed Mercury retrograde. They're getting sloppy.
Yeah, exactly. They were a little bit slow on the ball there. It just shows that this machine is maybe not as in charge as they want to be here. So, and it's funny. I've always said this to a lot of people. I used to feel younger. There was this hand on my energy and my development, like always like pressing me down. And for the last number of years, it's like this hand keeps going further and further back. Like it doesn't have time to press me down anymore. It's so busy with everybody else waking up. So they're a little bit slow on the ball, but still they're up to their same games. As you can see, this is what I got that morning. It was Janine who was calling me as I woke up. I was like, what's going on? And it was funny too. I slept in that morning. And I slept in the morning because I hadn't slept all night. I was tossing and turning all night. Imagine that. Something was bugging me in the field. And when I woke up, I'm like, oh, that's what that was.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. You know what? The body knows.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that, the retrograde here a little bit. There's a lot of the audience here. I've been seeing the messages over the last couple of days. They had a rough time too, communication-wise, relationship-wise, career-wise. Like it just felt like everybody was stuck in the mud. Let's talk about that a little bit. Do you have any words of advice for them here moving forward as we're just shifting out of that retrograde here, but into quite a bit of change also? So it's not going to be that easy either.
That's an understatement.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that I could say much about Mercury, but my own approach toward Mercury is okay. It happens 3 times a year. During that period of time, we are supposed to reflect, think, kind of withdraw into ourselves, become much more contemplative, assess, review our lives, what needs changing, what has to be different. And when I do that, then I sail right through the whole 3 weeks. It's usually about 3 weeks.
Right.
When I forget, it's like, oh, wow, I end up with foot and mouth disease. And something blows up in my face. But when I actually use that time, then it's like, oh, wow. I had, for example, I got on the wire with some people from Apple because I wanted to buy a new computer. Okay. And because mine is just so overloaded and it's, I need some help here. Okay. So I get this whole order all put together. And then I said to her, I need to have a meeting and review my finances, and then I'll call you back and say, okay, go. I forgot until Mercury started like a day after Mercury. And so then it was like, oh, nope, I'm not doing it during Mercury. You're not supposed to sign contracts, make deals, do anything that is big and involved, and you just kind of reflect. And so I was very quiet during this period, and so I called, I think yesterday or the 23rd, which was the day that it ended, and said, okay, put that order through. So, but it's that kind of preparedness that helps a lot. Mm-hmm. When you're not prepared, wow, we are affected by the energies that we are floating in. Yeah. It's just that simple.
Yeah. I had started, but doesn't matter. Let's move on with the show. Somebody here was asking, hey, is this Jean-Claude's new channel? Yes, it is. Yeah. So let me bring that up on the screen. If you're here and you're looking at that little logo here with the number 3, yes, you're on our new backup channel. Please do hit that subscribe button and hit that little notification bell as well so you get notified. All of our shows are, of course, live. And also, if you want to support me in this time, really appreciate it, especially now more than ever. Please check out our Patreon here at patreon.com/BeyondMystic. And there you're you're looking for the Insider Access Pass, this is where I give you access to all of the pay-per-view material that we're producing now on this backup server that we are paying for so that we can host all of these amazing uncensored episodes. And as you can see, there's quite a bit of a library there already. So if you want to have access to all of that before everybody else here in the public at large, please do consider here supporting me on our Insider Access Pass here at Patreon. All right. Everybody was asking me in the last couple of weeks before I got deleted here, bring Penny back, or we have to talk about this look-see and this whole Kim Gogan thing and the economic reset. I'm like, okay, hold on. I'll reach out to her. So here we are. Do you want to get into some of the financial reset itself, or do you want to go into maybe some of the last experiment you had with your intuition class and maybe how that all ties in here, because you have some data there that's coming from across the world. You tell me how you want to develop the episode for tonight.
Well, I'll say a couple things about that last, my last update that involved the whole financial reset thing. And I won't mention any names, but
Okay.
There's somebody with a very short name that begins with K and ends with M. So that whole thing, when you really study that and you really look at that and you're not caught in all that stupid identity politics stuff, it isn't about the woman or it isn't about the politician. It's about what are they doing? What are they saying? Are they acting on what they're saying, or is it just all lip service kind of thing? And so when you look at that and you really understand how the financial system worked and what has changed, I have to say this, it's going to sound discouraging, but when I first listened to that and really understood it, I was like, there's no way. There's no way that we can get out of this. There's no way out. And, and then, and there is, but my first reaction was, I don't think people have a clue, not even a little clue, how deep this whole thing is, how many layers there are. And even though there are signs that the beings at the top who are controlling things have said, you guys aren't worth it, we're leaving. There's 5 dozen layers of people trapped in that system who did things that they're not really proud of, right, that are going to try and cover themselves or use what power. I don't think half of them knew who was really at the top either, because it isn't who we all talk about, which is the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and the Clintons, and it's not them. They're not even, well, they're not at the top, that's for sure. Right. But when you really understand that and you see that we have a lot of work ahead of us, it's like, oh my gosh. So I went through this period back at the beginning of the year of like, oh wow, we're screwed, and then I would see something hopeful and think, well, and what I'm seeing now is, okay, it's going to be a slow implosion, slow-mo kind of thing. And you just have to be patient, and you have to be prepared, and you have to get what you need to, make sure that you can get through the rough spots, and we're going down. Right. So, I do not see Trump coming back. So I was curious. So let me just kind of morph into the intuition class that we had this weekend.
Okay, before you do that, let me just bring that up on for the audience here who might not have seen your last video. I'm pointing at it now here without naming names, and I just let me just put the link to your channel back into the live so people can go check it out. There's 1 or 2 comments in here that said, "Hey, don't talk about this. We already saw this and we don't agree." Well, I'm sorry, we're going to talk about it because we're trying to push the needle forward in our understanding, and quite a few of the audience maybe have not seen it. So we're going to have this conversation. And if you don't want to watch it, it's okay. You can go watch some
Yeah.
cute cats and another channel, not mine. All right. So let's get into this intuition class and explain to the
Yeah.
people how you
Well,
set
let
it
me
up
say
and what came
something.
out.
Let me interrupt you for a minute, Jean-Claude. I really love to hear all the voices. It's okay that some people don't agree. You
Right.
should still listen. I listen to all kinds of stuff that I don't agree with or that I think, oh my God, you
Right.
know. But that you have to listen. You have to be open. You don't have to agree. If you're going to at some point come to a place where you say, oh, I didn't realize that.
Mhm.
That's down the road. Be who you are now.
Right.
Never mind down the road.
Yeah.
So, we got a lot of comments. A lot of them on YouTube were negative. I was like, oh my God, I thought nobody knew about this woman. Everybody knew and nobody was saying one damn word.
Right.
So that's not good for us. That's sweeping crap under the rug.
Right, because when we're being told by energies don't talk about this, it is a form of censorship, right?
It
And I
is.
don't do that on my show. And I've set up my show since the beginning to bring people with the opposite points of view so that we can understand and
Right.
learn. We're not talking in this echo chamber, preaching to the choir. Libby says, yeah, exactly, Jean-Claude. And somebody else says, yeah, we have to listen to all the voices. And again, I've said this a gazillion times on my show, listen to everyone, follow no one, get all the data, and then use that own discernment. So that's what the show is all about. So thank you. I appreciate you're on the same page with me here because it is difficult for some to hear things that don't resonate with them. And let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Jenny said this on my show the other day too. Sometimes you hear something, it doesn't resonate with you. And some people have the quick reflex of saying, oh, this is a bad frequency because it doesn't feel right. I don't want to listen to it. Sometimes that could be the case, but it could also be the case that you're hearing something that doesn't resonate for you because you have something in your frequency that needs to be addressed, that needs to be resolved. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. When your frequency set is tuned in one particular way, just like a piano, and you hear somebody saying something that you're not comfortable with, and you don't want to think that that's true, and you can't hardly get your mind around that, then you're going to have a bad reaction. You're going to say that person is full of crap, or that person doesn't know what they're talking about, or they're a con man or a con woman, or that's just, go ahead and say all that stuff, but by God, keep listening. Keep listening because you don't know how it's going to unfold. And pieces, they don't all come out at once. They come out a little bit at a time. And so that is so important. We are not all knowing yet. So it's important to keep on gathering information. It's like when I was in the lab, my first few years in the lab with Dr. Levengood, we'd be working on something and I would jump to a conclusion and he would say, what do you base that on? And I would say, well, and I would stop right there. And he would, no, he'd say, we don't have the data yet. Don't be jumping to conclusions. Right. When you keep gathering data, it's going to organize itself into the big picture and fall right in your lap. The truth will fall right out of that into your lap. Right. Don't jump. He called it to premature cognitive commitments. Right. And I was very schooled in that art of gathering information, sitting with stuff that I was like, yuck. And then letting that, kind of filter through a little bit, and then coming around to saying, okay, I need to look at that. What am I uncomfortable with? What is it that I don't like about that? Most of the time it was just something that somebody said that I didn't like, period. It was personal preference. It had nothing to do with facts, nothing to do with data, nothing to do with the truth, nothing to do with evidence. Yeah. That's it. So you have to go a little more slowly when you want to come to the truth. Yeah. So
I love what you just brought up. I had never heard that term. Shoot.
Oh,
Premature cognitive commitments. I love that.
yeah.
PCC. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cognitive commitments. Yeah. And we're humans. We want to fall into
Right.
something that makes us comfortable, right? And we'll follow that evidence and we'll stop looking at the other stuff. Like we're kind of programmed that way. We're trying to deprogram from that on this show. And sometimes it's difficult. I understand. But it's part of that learning process. And somebody said, yeah, discernment is key, DG. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's the whole point of us doing this show. And I think it was with Penny once too. Said something to the effect like, listen, if I don't give you the diagnosis that you have cancer and you don't know about it, you're not going to make the small incremental changes in your life to avoid that, right? So there's all these competing timelines right now. There's all these competing narratives. You need to learn all of them so that you can push the needle towards the ones you want to start. But you need to learn what else is out there because, again, there's other pieces to this, and there's people pushing the other way. So if you don't know what they're doing, you can't how do you say that, contravene, or you can't
contribute.
Yeah, contribute or no, actually, if somebody's working against you and you don't know how to put a stop to it, right? So that energy is siphoning off of you and you're not aware of it. So by knowing what they're doing, you can put your energy to fix that, resolve that, and push it back to the direction you want. Anyways, all right. I think that's enough.
Very good.
Into some of the data here. So you were doing this intuitive teaching class. Explain to the audience how that works, just for the people who might be interested.
Okay.
And one of your members and taking one of those courses with you. And again, I'll bring your website back up. And folks, don't forget to submit to her newsletter as well. Just in case something happens to her too, she'll be able to contact you there. And there is some monthly newsletters coming out there as well now. So don't forget to go and subscribe there also. Yeah. All right, let's talk about this intuition course.
Okay, so this is Intuition 2. I just taught this past weekend. And in this class, I always have students begin the process of becoming clairvoyant. They don't know. I don't say, okay, we're going to have a lesson in clairvoyance here, because that freaks people out. And then they get all, oh, I can't do this. Or what if I'm wrong or whatever? So instead, what I do is just say, get quiet, sit back, relax, get a paper and pencil and have it handy. And then take a couple, 3 deep breaths, real deep. And then now go, just move ahead 4 months. And look and see, what are you doing 4 months from now? Don't try to figure out what you think you will be doing then. Don't try to figure out what usually happens at that time of the year. You know, don't use your logic or your reason. Just go see. And they have only 1.5 minutes or 2 at the most to look and to write. And so they, so we moved ahead 4 months, and then we moved ahead 7 months to look at whatever country you were in. And then we moved ahead 17 months to look at what was happening with Trump and the US. And then we moved ahead 22 months to look, it's like, okay, go back to yourself. What do you do in 22 months from now? And almost without exception, the 7-month thing where people were looking at their country and the US and Trump, they were almost identical for 30 some people. So, and the mood at 22 months out was pretty much the same. There were less people. People were they were relaxing a little bit. They were beginning to feel that we could handle what we had, what we were going through, etc. So I was just going to share the 7-month or the 17-month thing, and just give you a flavor of what some of those were.
The 17th month, you say? Interesting choice of numbers. Okay, but that's when everything started to collide, where you're getting the same data from everybody. Was that mark? Is that correct?
At 7 months, for instance, somebody from New Zealand said people were crying, there was sadness and pain, but there was beauty around, yet it was connected with ignorance and delusions. And then they said 17 months from now, they were looking at Trump in the US. Trump looked gray and sickly, but the presidency was bright with all new people. So that was how we started. The next one was someone in Canada. People in Canada were experiencing confusion. They were optimistic but uncomfortable. The economy was very strange. aircraft were unreliable, and he saw a picture of a Christmas gift. For the U.S., Trump is the leader of about half, maybe 2/3 of the country, but not all. The next one said the U.S. 7 months from now, total chaos, some good stuff. A skull and crossbones flag is flying on a ship. And then he saw, you know how a television, when it stops picking up signal, it has all these bands of color across it.
Right.
He saw that. For 17 months, he said, I see Trump sitting at a computer in a suit and tie. A blue flag with a circle in the middle is next to him. And he made a face like an FU face. So the next person said it was in Canada. The government was dismantling, economic collapse, disillusioned people. In the U.S., Trump was in court. There were rulings. The government in the U.S. is also dismantling and being restructured. Documents were being released, and the disclosures were shocking. The next one was change. This was in the U.S. Change in people is now starting to be widespread. People are waking up. Finances are changed. We're doing things with different people of awakened mentality. And then for 17 months out with Trump, he said the truth in the elections is beginning to be exposed. People are furious with the situation. They're realizing illegitimacy and they want answers. So, you know, all the way down, the whole thing, 17 months out around the U.S. Next one was for 17 months out, there is no presidency. The country is a management zone. Very few in government. Everybody's focused on the expansion of consciousness in an effort to create prosperity and take care of all. The next one said, I saw Trump standing at a podium with flags behind him. Then I saw a black limo moving. Not sure what that meant. Next one was Trump is not here, 17 months out. The podium was upside down and auguring into the ground. People were looking for new ways to govern themselves, and Hawaii was pulling away. The next one, Trump, a lot of people are missing from the government. Other people outside the government are trying to come together. People realize things are falling apart. Trump is fading in and out. There's a group trying to manage things. People are talking, trying to get together. The next one's Trump speaking across an electric billboard platform like you see in New York City. And it sounded very serious. People were watching from the street. There was confusion. People were straining to move forward and knew that it was important to figure out how to survive. The next one said, regarding Trump, there is no presidency. Trump is on his own like everybody else. The government is breaking down. The next one said, a group of men were pondering at a table, looking over the shoulder of Trump in a city that was not a beautiful white city. It was a huge, dark, Maya-like structure where they are gathered. And I had a picture of like one of those stepped pyramids.
Right.
The next one said Hillary, Trump, and Biden were all cardboard cutouts and they were all in jail. The real Trump was on an island. The real president was working from an old building in the middle of the country. He was young and not very good at it. The next one said, Trump is not the president. He might be in the background, but I don't feel him there at all. The Biden facade is over. Biden is gone. The government has been totally shaken up as if an earthquake happened in D.C. New groups are being organized and we are starting from scratch. Next, Trump, she said, I had a hard time tuning in. He was involved in a lot of things, businesses, projects, etc. But I couldn't see a president, a Senate, a Congress, and the courts were completely deserted. I saw a Texas flag. People didn't care about the government anymore. Nobody was listening. The next one says Trump, not Trump, more is being revealed, but some people still refusing to see. Slow progress, but greater awareness. Everybody's sad. There's anger, no trust. People are turning to themselves. A lot of local governments are being organized, multiple governments. The next one said, I think Biden is dead. Trump is in charge, but the country is divided. Cities are in rebellion. People are uneasy. I see Trump in the South, but not Florida. The country is divided into 3 or 4 groups. The next one said, I couldn't see Trump, but the same energy was present as if he had left a legacy of his energy. There were lots of re's, R-E, reorganizing, restructuring, renewing, restoring. A lot of low energy rubbish was being cleared out, but still people are hanging on. Next one says, Trump is behind the scenes helping rebuild. He organizes, hands people who are ready more power, makes funds available, and the people are more loving and reaching out to one another. I like that. The next one said the White House was a park with trees, green trees. A command center was elsewhere, and Trump was there. There was no government and no legislation. It was more like all logistics and managing things where he was directing them. Behind him were leaders from all the countries. He was in charge, directing and managing. There was a transparency channel, and you could see what was going on anywhere in the world through your technology. It was all about sharing. Each country had a representative, including the USA, and Trump was keeping the balance. The next one said, he's in, I think, but there's been quite a shift. She said, I pictured him surrounded by others, on their feet, in an office. He was on the phone, talking to other world leaders all the time. He was working to reestablish necessary systems and structures, showing them how they could do it. There was all kinds of cooperation. The scene changed, and he was giving instructions to capable people. The next one said, I felt a sadness. I was looking for Trump, but I couldn't see anything. I asked for some words to appear on my mental whiteboard, and I saw a tarot card that said the devil. The next one, Trump faded into the background again and again, like he was fading in and out.
Mm-hmm.
There was a big group of people in dark suits standing nearby. A few military people were in front, ready to go if needed. They were backing up the group of people in suits. There was nothing in Washington, D.C., no government. The next one said, I don't see Trump. I see a transfer of power, but not to Democrats or Republicans. It wasn't clear to whom. This is the beginning of the breakdown of government, a slow change in the power structures, much more state and local government forming. People don't want a federal government or its dominance. Public in general are in great disbelief. And then the last one, Trump is around, but he's not in the White House. Lots of other people, alternative people, are working with Trump, but he has no power because all the power went back to each state. No federal government anymore. People are aware of the truth, but nobody knows what to do. So that was like, wow. it was almost everybody saw the same thing, and that usually there'll be maybe 75% of the class will see something similar, but this was shockingly the same.
Wow.
So, and that's a year and a half from now. 17 months is almost a year and a half. And that right there says we're not done yet. And I was thinking this afternoon how war weary I am. I have been dealing with this whole thing for a very long time and knowing what was coming. And it's gotten pretty intense the last 4.5 years. And it's like, okay. So I think the important thing for people to do is take a break, go do something fun, go on vacation, go be silly, take a nap, something that is that is really a change of pace and that's renewing, because we still have a ways to go. And people like yourself, Jean-Claude, or others who have been seeing this and knowing what's coming for a long time, myself included for a very long time, that's all really, at some point you have to stop and say, even the soldiers back in World War II would be sent away for R&R so they could come back and fight some more.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, there's a couple of things I want to bring up in all of this. Just again, for different perspectives here. What's fascinating, you said there's a lot of read this, read that, read that.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have my slide anymore. Again, I'm just rebuilding this whole broadcast platform here. But Cliff High, in his predictive linguistic, maybe a month ago, he put this out that there was 3 critical months here moving forward: the May, June, and July. And there was operating words for each of those months. And for the month of May, the operating word was danger. For the month of July, the operating word was panic. And then starting in August, the operating word was change. Not that we had change, but all the conversations about the change, read this, read that, rebuild, read this, all of that stuff. So this was in his predictive linguistics. You just said also in your report that a lot of people were seeing that there was a disarray, no government, kind of weird communities getting together and doing on their own. You call it new groups of forming, right? Well, again, in his predictive linguistics that go back 5, 6, 7 years now, he talked about these SOCs, self-organizing communities. And so we would get to a point of devolution that people would just need to make a way, get together, fix that road, get together, do this thing. Right. And so perhaps your people are tuning into that as well here. Now, the other thing too that's important, let me bring this up, I'll tread carefully here as well. You talked about logistics, like managing logistics, and something weird here in the country where there's a big emphasis on that. In this last video, Electric Change of Wu, he talked about managing resources here for the people who are undamaged, and this will become very critical. So there's a portion of the population that's damaged. We won't get into that. And that also is causing a lot of the disruption, not only in our governance system, but everything else, transport, food industry, all of that stuff. And that suddenly we would have to focus a lot more on what's absolutely important in managing our resources. And this whole idea of the critical race theory and all of that stuff, suddenly like, nobody cares about that. Are you damaged or are you not damaged? Can you do the work? Because right now there's critical needs. So guys, go check that out. That's on his BitChute channel, no longer on YouTube for a reason. So you understand that. But yeah, okay. So there's a lot of changes coming up, and that's what we were getting into here. And we're just trying to, again, not catastrophize. We hope for the best, but we also prepare for the worst. And so if these all these changes are coming up, that means you also have to take action to navigate all of this, because some things are going to get weird. And you thought last year was weird, right? These next 17 months are absolutely going to get weird. So what are your thoughts on some of this predictive linguistics, how it ties in? And then let's segue that into the financial system. Because a lot of people are saying, well, okay, there's all this crap going on. We're having a devolution of maybe government structures. What's happening with my pension fund? How am I going to survive this? How am I going to navigate that? So let's transition into that here.
Okay. So, let me just say kind of carefully a few things that I have understood. If the woman whose name starts with K and ends with M, if she's anywhere in telling the truth or close to what's really happening, which appears to be the case, and you really have to listen carefully and go through some of her deep and complex, instruction or lectures on this is how the system worked and this is how it is now. But once you understand that, what I think, what I've seen is that we wobble along, but we don't crash the way I kept thinking that we were going to have to, or that all of the financial gurus were saying, "Oh my God, well,
Mhm.
etc." What appears to have been done is that there are new rules for the system, and you can choose to join the system, the financial system, in the way that you have to have certain codes to get into that system. You can choose if you're a bank, whether you're a tier 1 bank or a tier 2 bank or tier 3 or whatever credit union, or a big corporation or a head of state or a central bank, doesn't matter. You can choose to take the money that has been put in your accounts and follow the rules for these new codes, or you can say, nah, I'm not doing that, and you won't have no money, and you won't be able to accomplish anything. So what I've seen is this very slow, reluctant, with a few deaths along the way, among bankers who say, look, we have to do something. And so they get involved with the new system. And that gives them access to some money. That if your bank says, okay, I'm in, and I'm going to play this new game, then your pension is going to be fine. If it doesn't, then you are going to be between a rock and a hard place. And it's totally up to the bank, each bank. So,
Wow. Okay, again, bringing this last video up, guys. Go check it out. Go check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, just be prepared. The more knowledge you have, the more you integrate this, and you make you have the ability to make the right choices for yourself. But in that last video too, he was talking about just what you're saying now. And again, we've had echoes from this for a couple of years. People were angry at Catherine Austin Fitts a couple of years ago. Everybody's like, "Oh, there's going to be a crash," and every crash. She says, "No, it's going to be a slow burn," and nobody agreed with
That's
her.
right. I forgot about that. I
Right.
heard her say that.
And she was absolutely on. It's been a slow burn for 10 years. Everybody thought after 2008, 9, 10, okay, this is it. This is it. It's going to crash tomorrow. And she's like, nope, it's going to be a slow burn. She called them Mr. Global. This is their plan. They're going to slow burn and everything. What happened here? And again, in that last video, Cliff was talking about these two weird timelines where one, the globalists achieved their objective of getting down to that magic number on those monuments somewhere for the population. I'll just say that here. And the other one was that where that was thwarted in some way. And it appears that we're going towards version number 2, where it is going to be thwarted in some way. It's not to say that some people are not damaged and going to suffer from all of this, but maybe not to the extent that they were hoping for, Mr. Global. Now that had something else maybe connect into all of this as well, because those people that are damaged that might disappear here from the Earth plane also reduce the competition for goods.
That's true.
Right, for the money system as well. So the crash that you saw, that other viewers may have thought was coming, also maybe is attenuated by the fact that there's a lot of people not competing for all these same goods anymore. So that also creates a deflationary event as opposed to this crack up boom that maybe some other analysts were talking about.
Let me add something there. One of the things I've seen consistently is that for some reason, Amazon is either dysfunctional or goes away or gets broken up or collapses or something happens with Amazon. I don't know what, but there comes a point where Amazon is not there. And and that causes prices to rise. And for like I have been because of what I had seen, I encouraged my daughter who has a small sewing business to, pursue that, develop that, because there's going to be a demand for goods. And she, when you know how to get supplies and you know how to make things and all that, you can be of service and you can make a living doing that. And so that whole thing, we're still moving right in that direction toward all the mom and pop stores are gone, and then Amazon goes away, and now all the mom and pop stores are scrambling to get back into service. And so the prices do go up and down, but it isn't the crazy, out of control inflation, number one, that just keeps going up and getting worse and worse. And it isn't this massive deflation in which everybody loses everything and nobody has 2 nickels to rub together. It's just this bumpy, like, what a nuisance. And through it all, we are learning and watching and thinking and understanding how to make a world. And I think that that's really the bottom line. How do we make a reality? So, and what do we want in that reality? How do we want it to work? But one of the other things that I've seen, which is one of the things somebody in this, in this Intuition 2 class said, was that all the states, like we went back in the Americas, went back, all the countries in the Americas went back to their original, regions or states. And there were no big national governments. And I was ticked by that because I thought, damn you, George Soros, you're going to get your way. But the bottom line there is that when we go back to being individual states, then we can say, okay, we tried a national government that was kind of patterned after kings and queens and popes and all that stuff with some checks and balances built in, and that didn't work. That opened the door for massive control that was hidden because bribery and, there's some other factors here that have to do with the takeover of the whole planet. But we're very, very skittish from this point forward about consolidating power anywhere. And so there's this, first we break apart and go back to being states again.
Right.
And kind of I'm going to call it a federation of states. And that then, how do I say it? That federation becomes like the basis for all the people of the planet, saying, how many people do you have left? How many people over there? Who's running you now? Oh, well, you're running yourselves. Do you want to join this effort to make sort of like a global agreement of sorts? And so the thing that struck me is that it looks a lot like a new world order, but it's not the new world order. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's got some characteristics of the whole globe coming together, but the criminal faction, the colonizers, the takeover factor is not there. So,
well, again, what you were just talking about Amazon there, that's interesting. Again, because of these damaged individuals who can't fly at this point, we're getting some reports of that around the world. And even though it's suppressed, it's still leaking out. And so a lot of these companies are going to have issues with the distribution system. So it's very possible, like you're saying there too, that is part of the reason why Amazon's not there. And then again, if that's the case, we're going to rely back on maybe trains, and that will bring back the idea of the corner store, right? So that close to the train track, corner store, mom and pop shops starting to deliver locally again. And when I was in high school, they were talking about, this transition into this one world kind of system, bigger, better box stores, all that stuff, right? It was touted as the great thing, right? And then after that, in the last 10 years or so, people are like, yeah, we're tired of that. We want to go back to the local beer maker, the local bakery, the local this. And for some reason, in the last year, all those local stuff got killed. All the big companies had huge profits last year, but the small guys got killed again. Again, maybe because they saw this coming and they're trying to keep that foothold of control, but it doesn't seem to be working their way. Again, we're going back to that local community, make a way civilization.
Okay. Yeah. It's interesting what you said about the railroad. When I was a kid, we had a railroad that went right through the middle of town, and we used to go to the railway station. It would deliver bags of flour, like 25 and 50-pound bags of flour in fabric, cotton fabric. The flour had been bagged in this cotton bags, and we would get the flour and make bread, and then we would use the fabric to make a dress or a skirt or some shorts or an apron or whatever. So we, that's not totally unheard of in my life, because I've been here for a while. But that kind of delivery, we do develop. One of the things I've seen that I love is the technology of the future. We do not go back to the little house on the prairie kind of thinking or behaving. If we want to really evolve, we need to go further with our technology, but it has to be benign. It can't be. We're putting all of our money and all of our scientific genius into weapons. It's stuff that hurts people. That we can't be doing that. But by gosh, there are places out there that are fairly simple populations with stunning technology, big motherships. We haven't even, I don't know, maybe some people in Area 51 try to, or have thought about that, but the rest of us, no, we haven't. So,
I'm putting up this video here. You just said mothership. I was going to talk to you about it. This was just filmed at Esoteric Ranch here. It's huge.
Okay.
Usually we have the little green dots, but this thing was filmed here for quite a bit of while. I'll share the link here for the audience. What's also cool is that this report came out today. And of course, as expected, like the remote viewers said on my show 2 weeks ago, blah, 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 UFOs, blah, blah, blah. That's what they foresaw for this report. And of course, there's some things, but there's no evidence of aliens. We don't know. So let's go back to this idea of technology. We need that technology to be released. The people watching the show absolutely know better than what's being presented in this report here. Do you feel, actually, okay, let's just hold on that for a second. I'll come back to that whole segment because we can spend a lot of time here. I just want to close the loop on what the question is in front of you right now, had to do with this devolution of systems and governance system. Aspiring Alchemist is asking, GC, please ask Penny if she sees the IRS going away in all of these transitions here.
Yes, I do. I mean, I'm sorry to have to be so blunt. Yes, I do. And I have warned my daughter, who is a CPA, that she may be out of a job when that happens. So the one of the things I saw in the look-see this, I think it was in April, maybe May, because it was extended for a month, was that there were quite a few people who just decided, you know what, I don't like what the government's doing. I'm not giving them my money. I'm not filing taxes. I'm just going to wait and see. And then I started hearing from people that was the case. People who were working with big corporations were trying to skirt the tax rule. Of course, that's what they do anyway. But they were beginning to say, we need some more time for it. It was a deliberate game to delay to see if the government would fall apart before they had to pay their next tranche of money or whatever.
Right.
And then a couple of people who were actively working either as bookkeepers or CPAs said that there were quite a few people that were just saying, no, I'm not going to file taxes yet. I'm just wait, just file an extension. And one of them said in her business, 80,000 people had deferred or said, no, I'm not paying taxes.
Holy shit. Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a big number.
Yeah.
Wow. Other people are reporting that too. It's not just Penny Kelly. I've heard other guys say that same thing, that they're getting big reports from these firms who are just not seeing the volumes they usually see.
No.
So that's interesting. Okay. So there's another part there too. Let's just finish on the economic stuff and we'll get back into the ET and some of this technology here to round up the show. So there's a few reports coming out there too that perhaps as these systems are breaking down, that physical money, as in the US dollar, might gain in value, whereas the digital version of it, the petrodollar digital on your screen, might be inflated or devalued in that sense. Because again, here of all of the devolution and what you're just talking about here, some banks say yes, some banks say no. We're seeing all of this deconstruction. So it makes a lot of sense to have something physical in your hands. Now, personally, I would much prefer gold and silver than holding on to physical dollars. But that being said, maybe for a period of time here, that's not such a bad idea. Same thing with the treasury coins, actual physical coins here. And it's so funny that last year, because of whatever was happening, we had the perfect excuse to see reports that all of these coins were disappearing from our circulation all of a sudden last year. Well, what was that all about? So do you have any data on that? Like what's going to happen there on that level? And then we'll talk about gold and silver as well.
Okay. Yeah. There has been an effort to remove actual physical money from the system. When I saw that was probably 5 years ago, I thought, oh, wow. And so at that point, I started telling people, have some junk silver, keep some dollars, ones, tens, fives, 20s. And just keep them on hand, because even if the system goes down, people still trade among themselves for what they need, and they trade money because it's the only thing they know. And so that really is, it looks to me like we have a number of different kinds of money that are circulating. There's the cryptos, and then there's the dollars, but then there's other local currencies, and then there's some trading, just bartering, etc. But lots of different kinds of money. States print their own money and say, this is our official money. And so we have all kinds of money. And I have said to people, try to keep a little bit of everything, including a little bit of gold, a little bit of silver, some crypto, some junk silver, some dollars, etc., some jewelry, things that people would like to have, be willing to trade for.
Right. Okay. So last on that note, and I agree. Again, if we're all going back local, that means that we have to have a local way of transacting with each other that may or may not involve central banks or local banks even. So we don't need to make this show about crypto because it'll take another hour to get into that. But let's quickly maybe touch on silver and gold. In some of the look-sees that you and I have produced back in December, January, February, we saw potentially this $600 silver target at some point here. And I have to say, I want to bring this in as another piece of information here. A couple of years ago, Cliff High had predicted that Bitcoin would go to 64,000. At that time, it was absolutely crazy. Nobody believed that. It was too high. It was too crazy. But what was funny about that report is that he said that the year that Bitcoin hit 64,000, it would also see a 50% retracement, which we just saw. We're at 30-some thousand here today. And he said that in that report, what was also concurrent with that model was that in that same year where Bitcoin would go from $64,000 to $30,000 and then move back up, in that same year, we would see $600 silver before Christmas.
Oh.
So what's your take on where silver is going to go in all of this
I
weird,
just,
crazy hoopla we're going through right now.
yeah. That whole thing about silver, I in my look-see, and I haven't looked since then, but it was like it, looked like silver was really going to jump, and then boom, nothing happened. It just
Right.
froze. And today I happen to, every so often I do have to go into my email and try to handle some of those. And I see a thing from Bix, and he said, I think we're going to blow past $30. And I thought, maybe not right now, but maybe by September, that might be true. And that was the first thing. Let me just say a couple things. Gold goes up, but not much, not as much as cryptocurrencies. Cryptos were going up dramatically, okay? Like 10x and more.
Right.
Gold, I'm not sure I could even describe what I was seeing. So it was like gold stays prominent, but it doesn't go up much at first. Maybe 3x. And then later, after I put this out, I thought, well, 3x, that's pretty dramatic.
Still, yeah.
Yeah, it was being held as a reserve just in case of difficulty, but the difficulty never really gets out of hand. And so the gold just sits there and then it drops. It goes up, but then it comes down again, losing at least half of its gain. So I thought, well, what's silver doing? And silver does similar things, but it has a bigger gain. And then it has some volatility and it moves back and forth. I tried to see more here, but nothing came. So when I came back to this question a few days later, I had this vision of this big fist. And my first impression was that silver is being so tightly hung on to by somebody so that it doesn't move, that we just need to not expect silver to do anything for another month or two. Okay. So, and I was disappointed because I had seen silver going up dramatically, like to almost 800 and then back down to 600. But when I tried to see that this time, I couldn't. All I could see was that fist. So I will look again. The reason to look every month is to see, are things changing?
Right.
Yeah. So.
Well, a couple of other psychics were also cueing me in the last couple of shows that we did in the last month that silver wouldn't move until some of the trafficking would be resolved. Like they were intrinsically tied together. So if the trafficking is still working, it's because the system still has enough control to be able to suppress the price of physical assets. So there seems to be tied in together. And now we have General Flynn in the last couple of days who tweeted something to the effect that the next 4 weeks will be shocking to people. So I'm wondering if maybe that's connected. But I also want to bring this to your attention. This is mainstream news now. This is not just, JC and Bix Weir in their basement. I'm not in my basement, but talking about the fact that there's silver shortages and there's something really, really wrong with price discovery. The U.S. Mint absolutely admitted. They're walking it back a little bit now because I think they got under fire here. But they're admitting to a silver shortage. And of course, we have these microchip and semiconductor shortages around the planet too. It's all tied into all of this. And on top of that, what might be changing very, very soon here is this installation of, or this putting into place of this Basel III regulation here that's just about to take effect, I believe, on June 28th, which means that central banks around the world need to hold a higher reserve of gold per their cash flows. And again, this is why perhaps the guys like Bix Weir who are looking at the outflows at the COMEX are seeing that massive physical deliveries are being happening now every month for the last couple of months, like we've never seen before. So somebody knows something and they're putting their hands on the physical gold and also here silver. And just on the question of silver, what you were just talking about there, Jim Sinclair had said that this was last year, that based on the money printing at that time, that gold should be at $97,000 per ounce. And he says that when this would eventually happen, just like his prediction, $800 silver back in the 80s was dead on, he said that silver would be like gold, but on steroids. So meaning even faster, as you just said here, exponentially faster than maybe gold. But what Jim Sinclair and Bill Holter was on my show last week. He said that they see two kind of resets. The first one, kind of attempted reset by officialdom, which absolutely doesn't work, doesn't jive. And then universe says, no. Good luck with that. Here's the real reset. So it could very well be, and you're seeing here a couple of months out, that Cliff High's prediction here before Christmas makes sense now when you look at all of this tied into it.
I did not know all that other stuff, so that's good input there. I had thought, okay, I'll look again, but my gut said nothing's really going to happen until September. So, and I did not know about the tie between trafficking and silver, but trafficking has taken a big leap. Let me just say that it's big business again, briefly.
Right. Exactly. That's probably as much as we can say here on that one. Okay. So, folks, I think we've touched a lot of your points here on the financial system. Let's track back a little bit here and talk about this ET thing. So let me bring this one back. Where were you guys here? So, of course, the report came out again, blah, 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 no signs of alien life. Now, let me ask you, in some of your readings, whether the intuition group that you had working the other day or yourself in your look-sees, what does this year look like really in terms of disclosure? Now, you and I know you've talked about this on my show before, that you were working with some other groups and you're working on communicating with some of these extraterrestrial entities. Now, in your talk earlier about the person whose name starts with K, that person was also talking about higher entities here who are manipulating, or at least partially manipulating the outcome of this planet. So what can we share with the audience here and how all of that ties in? Because, of course, we're not going to get that from officialdom. We kind of have to make it our own, and we're seeing a lot more people around the planet now having the one-on-one relationships with ETs, whether that's telepathically or in person right now, and that's just growing by the numbers. So if disclosure is happening that way, we won't care about what officialdom says. We're all actually getting into communication, whether we know it or not at this point.
That's true. So I'm going to say that the big aha, and this came from, I tried to watch a movie. I never have time to watch movies, so I don't even try. But I tried to watch Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, and I saw quite a bit of it. There was a comment that Stephen Greer made somewhere in that video, which was really it was good. It was well done. And that comment was that in the same way that we couldn't count on officialdom to start the integration of Black folks into our society in a way that was, just much more human than what we had back in the early part of last century, or the Black people had to stand up and say, look, I'm not giving up my seat on the bus. And that really, they took it upon themselves. And he said, we're going to have to do the same thing with this. And my thought was, oh, that fits right in with what I've seen about this whole change of governance. The government is not going to go away, and it's not going to suddenly crash. It's just going to do what I saw, what the robes showed me, which was people end up saying, yeah, who's paying attention to them? Right. Nobody's going to church anymore. Nobody's going to the government anymore. Nobody's paying attention to the government anymore. And only when the government comes up with I'm going to say a nice project that really benefits humanity, and there's an honorable person running that project, does anybody even contribute to that project? And everybody knows who's honorable and who's not at that point in time. So I think, back to UFOs, I don't know why we're waiting for the government to say, yeah, they're here, because they have done nothing but lie. Right. And they have good reason to lie. I will say that. But if we want out from under that pile of lies and horse pucky, then we're going to have to do it ourselves. Hands down, bottom line. And so people are reaching out. They are connecting. I was thinking just the other day after I watched Greer's movie, most of it, I think it's about an hour and a half, and I saw maybe an hour and 10 minutes. That was like, oh, I'm going to host one of those groups, C-SETI 5 groups. And I have already had contact and continue to have contact. And so it's kind of in my thinking, why not? The only thing that worries me is I know that Michigan is maybe not a good spot because there's too much military and other kinds of surveillance here because of the because there's so many people and because of the criminality that goes on in Chicago and Detroit and Indianapolis and DC and Philadelphia and New York and all of that. So I think we should start reaching out ourselves and saying, hey, let's get to know one another.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Well, this is a video I mentioned earlier. Let me bring the link back down. It was just posted by the ESETI folks here at Skywatch a couple of days ago. Yeah, absolutely incredible cylinder ship. Usually we see I was there. I've been to ESETI Ranch before. We see these little lights flicker in the sky and also on the mountain. But this is absolutely amazing footage there. And he brought up I zoomed out here to show the Mount Tanums just behind there. So that's absolutely fascinating. And they do a similar, not the same, but it's a protocol of communication, basically. Kind of like a C-SETI 5 protocol. But that's very interesting. Okay. Now, let's go back to the technology in all of this. Do you see in your look-see that some of your technology is going to be coming out maybe this year, whether that's med beds for help to maybe help some of the people who were damaged, or maybe it's some type of free energy also to deal with some of the pressures on our economy here?
I did not see that this year.
Okay.
I know that's going to disappoint people. Maybe I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong, but I did not see that. And the reason that I think it doesn't come out is because it's being withheld deliberately to see how big the effect of the jab is. And if we have some difficulties with health among those who have gotten the jab, then there's going to be an outcry. But even then it was withheld. However, there are good people doing research that is pretty important. And I don't want to say too much because I haven't read it all yet, but it looks like there are ways around that. The problem is going to be that nobody knows nobody knows about frequencies and how to use them or what they mean or what that whole change, that whole paradigm shift in terms of a change in the way that we see and utilize energy creates a paradigm shift because now all new things are possible.
Right.
So, and just today, I was listening to somebody, Nick, I don't know how to say the last name, Veneman,
yeah. Nicholas, yeah.
Yeah, and he was talking with two guys. One, I can't remember their name, Nick something and Lewis, somebody. And they were just like, oh my God, they were talking about the things that were possible. Time travel was one of the things they were talking about. And I thought, wow, people have no clue. If you look at the human body, and what it's like when it's born, and what it's like when it's 40 or 30 or 70, you have to realize that there have been some time traveling that's been done between birth and 70. Okay? The form changes over time, based on the what I'm going to call the interactions of the frequencies, and that's what changes over time. That is the essence of time travel. Okay? The frequencies react in such a way that they're predictable, and you can see right what something is going to become. And when you roll that back, they go back to their original form. They go back to health. They go back to an earlier stage. So it's really about frequencies, but they don't, a lot of people, I thought, well, there's a perfect example of people that do not understand the power and the nature of frequencies and what that means for us and our technology, which is phenomenal. It's unlimited technology. It's magic. We would call it magic. So.
Right, absolutely. Let me bring up a poster for the audience here too. Again, just to show how crazy it is to be out here talking about these topics. Penny and I did this video about a year ago. It got us into a lot of trouble. And of course, we were talking exactly about what she's talking about now. Right. So not only the concepts of it, but how to disconnect from the extraction matrix that we're in and how to from this energy. Sadly, this episode got disappeared and I never got this one back. So maybe you and I can revisit that at some point on our pay-per-view where we control the server, we're paying for our own space, and we can for now say more things that we can hear on YouTube. But I just wanted to show that to maybe the audience who are coming back here and saying, what are they talking about? This is a very important topic, understanding your energy source and how to manifest from it. That's where that's where the magic all happens. Okay, speaking of pay-per-views, you and I were set to do this episode about a month ago on this ET thing, and we all got distracted. And of course, now I just lost my channel, so I'm pushed back. There's a few people who had bought this episode on pre-order here on our pay-per-view. So just wanted to let the audience know, Penny and I were trying to put this back on the books here at some point. What's your schedule like in the next couple of weeks here? And now that maybe you've advanced more in this group with the ET communication, is now an appropriate time to go back and revisit this episode we wanted to produce?
Yeah, I think I have to teach another class at the end of next week. And then it opens up a little bit because I'm just wanting to focus on finishing this book. I'm working on a book. I had an extraordinary experience yesterday. It's like, oh, wow. Okay. And so from the end of the 4th of July weekend until the end of August, I'm much more flexible. I don't have any classes because I'm trying to finish this. I will finish this book, even if I have to stay up all day and all night for weeks.
Okay. So if Penny or if Daphne is in the chat, I'll email you later tonight, and we'll look at dates maybe around July 15th or something like that. I'll get to her and we'll get that. So folks, if you're still hoping for that episode, it's coming. Don't worry. We're going to get to it. And of course, a lot of this is my fault here too. There's a big delay with everything that just happened on our channel. Now, speaking of books, this next book that's coming up, talk about that here too. When do you think it'll hit the stores before Christmas, and what's it all about?
So I was calling it the paradigm shift, because that's what it's about. It's about, so let me just back up a little bit and tell a little story, okay?
All right, sure, let's do it.
So last June or July, I started being taken to a different reality system about once a week, and I don't remember, or I didn't remember a lot of that at first, and that went on for like at least 12 weeks that I remembered. Okay, so at the very end of that, I was talking to one of the beings, and they said, now don't forget, there's this and there's that, and that we were kind of doing a quick review of everything that I had seen, and they said, and have it together and ready for the presentation. And at that point, I was kind of like, what presentation? And I think we had our last meeting somewhere in September. So it started in June and ended in September. And then not too much happened, I until yesterday morning. So I decided to go and visit one of the places I had been to before, and I won't give away the whole thing that happened, but it was pretty astonishing for me. And the result that came out of it was change the title of the book. Because I went to this I'll say a little bit. I went to this reality system that I've been to before, and I was asking myself, okay, this presentation I'm giving in August is about the new Earth, what a new world would look like, how it would operate, etc.
Right.
What I realized was that I had been to this one place, but I didn't know any people, so I really didn't understand how things worked, how they lived, how they thought, what was important, what did they do all day, that kind of thing. So I went back there thinking that I would try to meet some people. So I went knocking on some doors, and I met a couple who said, "Oh, you need to go to the revival. And there's one tonight. We'll take you if you're interested, if you're free." Okay, fine. So they take me to the revival, and we leave this apartment that I was living in, and everything becomes a blur. And we end up at this big conference center, and nobody's there. And I see some tape in the back of the room, and I think, well, maybe we have to register, and we're a little bit early. So I head toward those tables, and this being just kind of appears right in front of me, and it says welcome, and we get into this conversation. And basically, at the end of the conversation, I won't go through the whole thing, he says to me, change the title of the book, call it The Revival. And that was the end of the visit. And I thought, why would I call it that? And then I realized, because it's about a revival of human spirit. It's a revival of our countries, plural countries, because there's a lot of people across the world going through the same things we are. It's a revival of energy. It's a revival of creativity. And so I took the time yesterday to write all of that down, and thought, okay, and he made it clear that I should put that in the book, because it shows the sort of planning and the sort of all-knowing preparation that beings from other levels of consciousness go through in order to manage things wisely and well. And so I thought, okay, this is going to be a little different book. So I changed the name in my head anyway, so far, to The Revival. And there were a couple other stories that I thought I would put in there, and I'm going to share what I saw in each of these different places, how they do things, what they don't do, what they do, what they, how they handle issues, and what are the basic premises of their world. So, and I have to say, almost across the board, it's trust. It's trust. Yeah.
Wow, we're in for some crazy, crazy times. Hey, listen, let me bring up your website again here with all of your books. We've talked about this on our previous shows before. And of course, just before I got deleted here a couple of days ago, we had 40,000 subscribers here, actually almost 42,000. So a lot of new people that don't know you, Penny. If they want to start to understand who Penny Kelly is, how you got into all of this, what perhaps is the best book to start with here to understand not just that, but also this ET involvement and how that's been tracking through time in your whole life here, as we are just now entering some of the things that were forecasted to you a few decades ago?
Wow. I don't know if there's a good place to start. The start is the evolving human. So, that's how I got into all this. Then one of the books that I published, which you can only get in book form at Amazon, is The Elves of Lily Hill Farm. That was another dimension of beings that I started exploring Then there were the little men in brown robes who appeared and said, we want to show you some pictures. And they were pictures of the future. And that future is this time now. And so then they came back 11 years later and said, write all that down. And so I finally published the book in 97, I think, or thereabouts. And it basically says, hey, people, you've outgrown your system. And it's not going to work for you anymore. And here is what you could create. Here's what you're headed toward. So that was robes. And then the ET, I was still very, very shy about, I didn't want anybody to know about the ET background, because I see, I think we need to get past the threat of the fake alien invasion. I didn't want to be lumped in with those bad aliens.
Right.
So I was trying to keep that part of my life quiet. Plus my kids were like, Mom, would you just be normal? And I'm like, I'm trying to be. I can't cut half of myself off.
Right.
But I talk about that in volume 2, Consciousness and Energy, volume 2. I think I may say a few things about it in volume 1. But that's the books are the discoveries, the research that I've been involved in for 42 years now, involving consciousness and what I've learned. And it's very much more interesting than what we have. So
completely new paradigm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so for folks who want to maybe dive even deeper and take some courses with you, do you have anything available now, or are you completely
in the fall? In the fall, I think the last class, Intuition 3, filled up the other day. But I'm going to run a full series of classes again in the fall.
Okay.
So keep an eye out. Sign up on my website for the newsletter. Daphne is amazing at keeping me on track. We need this, we need that. And so,
awesome. And in the meantime, folks, of course, you can support Penny here on her Patreon account. She's got a few different packages there that include some of her courses and also the weekly or the monthly look-sees. So if they're looking for that, which package is the right one for them, Penny?
I put out the look-see in written form for alpha, the alpha level.
Okay.
For high beta, you get the and for gamma, you get the video and the written as well.
Okay.
And then we do a lot of videos. Daphne and I have these conversations.
The tea and consciousness ones?
Yeah, with the tea and consciousness. Every Monday there's a tea and consciousness. I shouldn't say not every Monday. The first 3 Mondays of the month, there's a tea and consciousness. And people join that. They're welcome to ask questions, have discussions, etc. So and then we pick questions off of my Patreon site. And they're people's questions, and we have these whole discussions. People ask the best questions.
I know.
And they are sharp, and they're critical in all the right places, and they're thinking. I love that.
That's awesome. I'm a member of your Patreon, and I absolutely love your content too. There's not enough hours in a day for me to watch all of your content, but I absolutely do appreciate everything you put out. So folks, give it a try. Please do go and support Penny here at patreon.com/Penny Kelly. The links are in the description box below of this video. And last but not least, I don't like asking, but I'm asking now. Of course, you know what I just went through here in the last couple of days. If you guys feel it in your heart to support me as well, you know that I was running really, really hard here in the last couple of months, producing 2-3 shows a night sometimes. And so now we're just a little bit of a step back here in having to reproduce this broadcast platform here. So if you guys if you like my shows and you like what I do, you want us to do more, at this point, we have to support each other. And I'm asking you guys to support me. So please do go check that out. And in the Insider Access Pass there, you have access to this community, to myself, to creating the dialogue here for future shows. And you also have access to all of our pay-per-view content, including this one that's coming up here with Penny Kelly. And you get access to all of that pay-per-view before everybody else. And last but not least here too, I want to draw your attention to this Beyond Crypto Woo #2 report. We get into this Tower card moment here and how it's affecting all of our financial systems in the next couple of months. So if you're looking for a little bit of a handle on what's going on, this report might be of interest to you. We've priced it, Janine and I, very competitively at $11. Most of these crypto reports are $20, $30, $40 elsewhere. And we did get into quite a bit here in terms of specific cryptocurrencies, but also gold and silver moving forward. So, folks, that was, well, wait, Penny, let me give you your last words. Anything else you're guided here as we finish the show? You're reading the context, you're getting this intuition. What does the audience need to hear here before we round this up for this week?
I think the best thing I could say, which I've said a couple of other places, but it bears repeating, we're winning, but we're not nearly done watching the old structures come apart. And that may be very painful and very uncomfortable for some people, especially if you're not ready. You have to be ready emotionally, and you have to have some options mentally, but keep going. Don't give up. Don't think it's hopeless. It's not. There's some other things I probably could have said, but already we're an hour and a half, and it's like, where did that time go?
So quite fast. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, don't give up. I love that. And of course, that applies to me too here after having been shot down once again. I'm not giving up, guys. I appreciate your support, of course, and I want to keep going. And thank you so much. It's all about building this community. And as we were saying here before the show started too, one of the reasons they're shooting down these platforms is to disperse these star seeds that are watching us and that are contributing here to building and creating this new earth. And those people perhaps want to delay that as much as they can. So like she said, we have still some work to do, but coming together and helping each other here moving forward, I think is the key. And I have to say thank you to everyone here. So many emails and comments in the last couple of days encouraging me to go forward. And a few of them made me cry, I have to be honest. And Sarah was like, "Oh, JC, you're so emotional." I'm like, yeah, it's like, holy crap. I didn't know.
Jean-Claude, I was gonna contribute to your website, and I thought, do you think that would be okay? I was afraid people would accuse me of buying a spot on your show. It's like, how do you deal with that? What is that? What are the implications of that?
Right. So, well, no, I mean, guys, if you want to support me, there's many ways you can do that. And Penny, I absolutely appreciate you and just being here. You're supporting me, and so that's more than enough for me, Penny. I always love when you're on the show, and I really appreciate when you're here. But for anybody else, of course, there's the PayPal tip jar. I always put that at the beginning of the show. The links are in the description box. You can buy one of the pay-per-views, one episode at a time, if that's in your budget. But if you really like us and you really want us to produce more, the Insider Access Pass is where everything happens. And I really appreciate that. And at the same time, again, I was just saying here some of the comments, and again, just looking at this one here from Jenny. Thank you so much. You're gonna be crying. I didn't want to cry on the show. Like, I'm not disappointed because I lost the channel. I'm crying because I understand how important this channel is, and more. And when I see just a couple of 24 hours go by, how people just go, where'd you go? Like, this is what we need this information. We need this community. And so thank you everyone who are supporting this and making this possible. Thank you to all the Patreons who made it possible in December when this happened to me again. And those of you who are here now, of course, to help me get back up and keep going. So a big thank you to everyone. And a big thank you to you, Penny, as always. Just a pleasure having you on. And I knew a long time ago when I first heard you that I was supposed to help you. So this is what I'm doing. And my commitment is steadfast in that respect. So folks, that was a break in the clouds here with Penny Kelly, and watch the channel here, probably around July 15th or so, Penny and I will get back to do that ET special pay-per-view episode for you guys, where we can actually speak in an uncensored fashion for you guys and give you all the goodies on that. So merci beaucoup, Penny. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great, fantastic weekend. I love you all. I'm Jean-Claude BeyondMystic, and au revoir.
Au revoir.
That's good.